thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm going to start by saying that this one in the third of our series has a lot of information in it. I don't want you to all freak out. There's a lot going on in this presentation. It is being recorded, so if you need to come back to it, please feel free to listen. The reason that this one is packed with information is that we've put in two elements or two parts of the sales cycle that are the next steps in the, marketing and the implementation of a successful benefit program. So let's just take a second. Before we go on, as always, you're welcome to use the chat box if you have any questions. I think somebody's going to be monitoring that, but if not, I'll get to them. If I don't get to your particular question during this time, you're welcome to reach out to me, or I'll reach out to you and get your questions answered. As well, again, this is being recorded, so you're welcome to listen to that. So let's just take a moment and just do a little bit of our story recap. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the needs analysis. We talked about the reason why you need to be armed with questions when you go and meet a prospect, and how to navigate through that to understand what their needs are, what their objectives are, in order to match a plan that's ultimately going to be a success story for the corporation and for the employees. So that was session number one. We took that information and we brought you last week the request to quote and navigating through the information and underwriting requirements in order to give the carriers the opportunity to quote based on the needs of the client. For us at IDC to be able to build a business case to promote that presentation into what we're going to be talking about today, and that we check mark all of the objectives of the employer, the employee needs, what we need as working with IDC and our team, and then getting to the carrier and giving them what they need to bring back quotes for this marketing proposal. So that's a little bit of a recap of what we went through. Today, we're going to be taking that information that the carriers have given back and putting it into our marketing proposal. Now, I think there's about 73 people on the 74 now on this line. What I do want to say is, if you've worked with us before, this is going to be something that you're used to seeing. We take the information from the carriers, we populate it, our team populates it into a very easy way to navigate or to showcase the carriers for your client, and putting that information into something that they can really dive into to make sure that they're going with the carrier that's best suited for their needs. So we always have learning objectives of this webinar. So this one is the marketing proposal and implementation. So what does our team want you to get out of this webinar today? Number one, understand why a great marketing proposal and implementation process are important to you as the advisor, because it is. Learn to present the marketing proposal so it reflects what you've learned about the client and their objectives. So you want to make sure that we're matching what you learned from your needs analysis and making sure we've checked those marks into the marketing proposal and ultimately implementation. Learn professional practices that will help ensure you meet expectations and deliver a smooth client experience. And then finally, understand how to use the marketing proposal and the implementation process to differentiate yourself, give yourself credibility as an advisor, and set expectations after the plan has already been implemented. So you might be saying, okay, great. Why does this matter? Well, it matters because it's another step in taking what you've learned from your client and getting that into the story, right? I talked to you about our Netflix series, how we don't want to come in season 3, episode 2. Want to make sure that we're following the story along, and we're setting the stage for a successful implementation. So what we do is we what you're going to see in the marketing proposal is that we connect the marketing proposal to the client strategy, right? So that they're making a decision, a buying decision based on the information that we've outlined and helped you outline. We educate the client on how the marketplace can meet their needs and empower clients to fully be engaged in that buying decision. We're going to get into examples, but that could be on a whole health benefit solution. That could be on a standalone telemedicine solution, or maybe a mental health strategy, because we gathered that from talking to you as the advisor as well as the client. So maybe we're going to be highlighting that. Maybe you're working with a client who has factory workers. Maybe orthopedic shoes and orthotics is something that we really need to highlight for you, because that was important. Because some of their employees are on their feet all day, and that's an important benefit to have. We're going to make sure that you know exactly where to go in the proposal to highlight that information. Surface and disclose any of the plan differences and insurance caveats. So every single insurance company has a way that they promote or they outline what's in a benefit package. The limits that they may have, their scaling units, for instance, on dental might be different than how other insurance companies handle that. That is going to be important information that we highlight for you, so that you can take that to your client and make sure that they're basing their decision specifically on what they've asked for. So we want to make sure that it supports the informed decision-making, smoother implementation, and stronger advisor-client relationship, because you've delivered what you've heard. Okay. Create a positive employer-employee and carrier interaction during implementation. So set up a positive relationship for the future and reinforces positive feelings about that buying decision. And that could even be during the implementation process, and we're going to get to it, about plan administration, getting the carrier to be involved and active with your group to make that a positive experience. So key concepts that we want you to be aware of. Again, we did the recap, but linking your recommendations to the KYC, explaining the numbers, and clarifying insurer underwriting notes. So when you get a proposal from us, you might be able to navigate your way through, but we highlight very important pieces of information in that marketing proposal. It could be a longer rate stabilization and rate guarantee. It could be a renewal cap after the first year. If you're not paying attention or know where to look or understand the work that's gone into that marketing proposal, then you might be doing your client a disservice by not bringing it to their attention, and that could affect their buying decision. So we're going to go through this. We're not going to go line by line, but we're going to go through to show you what one of our marketing presentations looks like, so that you know where to look when you're doing business with us on where to look for certain key elements and key factors that's going to help your client. We tend to put in a marketing or an executive summary at the beginning of the presentation. If you've given us a business case, let's say we've gone out to 5 or 6 carriers that might have fit the mold or the demographic of the group, or maybe some insurance carriers that we know are best suited for this type of client, then you're going to see that outlined on our executive summary or our marketing proposal summary. That doesn't mean that we're showcasing all of those carriers. We may only showcase 2 or 3, but we've put them all in there so that you can see who the carriers are that we went to. There's certain sections of this marketing proposal that we want you to understand when we tell a story. So we're helping you tell that story. Section 1 is addressing the strategic objectives and business needs, underwriting concerns and notes, and then some recommendations. They might be something that we've thought about because we're working with you on a particular case. You've chosen a business model where you've asked for our help, our consulting, our recommendations. You will note them in that presentation as we go along. So a group marketing is obviously is a powerful utility, obviously, and this is where you're going to see different types of the plans that and strategies that we put together. For instance, we're not just working with traditional plans. You may have come to us asking us to provide information on a hybrid plan or a flex plan, which we could do down to 3 people, or voluntary programs that might be key to helping the employees get individual insurances as well. So the way we outline a marketing proposal is going to be based on your feedback, what you're looking for, the type of benefit plan that we're putting in place or that we want to put in place and help you with this client. It might not be the traditional benefits that you are used to. You might find that each presentation is a little bit different depending on those needs and depending on the product type and the perspective that we want to make sure we're getting across to the client. So that's why we've outlined here the hybrid, the flex, and maybe some optional or standalone products that we want to highlight, because that's going to play a key in communicating this with your client. By the way, we are able to brand a marketing proposal, and we do have some advisors who are on the line right now who we specifically brand with your company information. So it looks like it's coming from you, that you've done all the work, even though you've utilized our services. So that is something that is a competitive advantage as well. But we're here to help you every step in the way, and I encourage you to reach out to our team to help you if you need our assistance in any of it. So as I mentioned before, really the first page of the presentation is what we call the marketing summary. This is where, if the group is a virgin group, you might not see this top portion, but you will see at the bottom the carriers that we've gone to, the responses that we've given. So it might be, maybe it's a nature of industry that an insurance company, it's not their target market, so they may have declined on that. It could be that the employer has not only gone to you to service that group or to work on that group, but they've also enlisted another advisor in that model. And if we know about it, we're going to put that in here as well. So the responses, whether they've quoted, whether they've declined, the reason for the decline. If they have quoted, we'll put in the estimated monthly premium, and then the target loss ratio, which is the break-even point that an insurer will give this group based on, nature of industry, number of people on the plan, the plan design that's been quoted. So that plays an important role. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on the definition of what a target loss ratio or why it might be important or why it might not be important. If that's something that you want to learn more, then you're welcome to reach out to Candy or myself. We'll be able to go through that as we navigate through. But this is what you can expect on the marketing summary. If your group currently has benefit, then we'll probably put in up at the top what their current benefit premium is on a monthly basis, and then what their target loss ratio is, so that you can do a comparison. But this is typically what one of our marketing summaries look like. If we've done a hybrid, we'll put that in there. If we've done a flex plan, we'll also indicate that on this page. So it's a nice way to start the conversation with your employer and company or prospect, whereby you can start engaging in the conversation and telling the story of what we did or what you did to initiate the quotes and what's transpired in that story. I'm just illustrating right now. We're just going to be talking about the traditional plan, the benefit summary, and this is pretty much what you can expect to see. Again, if you've done work with us before, this is not new to you. You know that this is something that we present. But it is a tool for you to engage with your client, because what we do is we don't do a deep dive. We do a high level overview of anything that's going to be really important to your client will be highlighted on the benefit page. Now, some advisors go and say, well, I want to show the rate page first. When we do our marketing presentation, we don't start with the rates. We'll give you a high-level overview on the marketing summary, but our idea of a successful benefit program is not showing rates first. It's actually showing the benefits first, because the benefits are going to guide. If there's something that's really important that is important to the client, and we've highlighted it in the benefit summary, then it really doesn't matter what the rate is, because it's obviously something really important that's going to be brought to the employer's attention. Because we do not want to sell benefits based solely on rates. That's not a successful way of putting in a benefit program. It's taking the information from the needs analysis. It's putting that together in the request to quote. It's populating that information onto the benefit summary. And then if it's really, really important, then the client is going to decide if the rates match that importance or if we have to change things around. So we never put the rates first. We always put the benefits first, because that's really what's going to be telling the story, or what's going to drive the next step in the process. So what can you find on here? You'll find a high-level overview of the plan features and cost drivers. You'll find rate guarantees that are put in place in here. If they currently have coverage and we're comparing a plan that's already put in place with what the carriers came back with, then you'll see deviations highlighted in either green or gold, whatever color that we happen to use, so that you can know it's a deviation. A deviation does not mean a downgrade. It could mean that it's offering more coverage, something to pay attention to, that the employer can go right to and see, oh, this is interesting. This is different than what we currently have. Is it different because it's better, or is it different because it's not going to be advantageous for us to look at that piece? So we highlight that because it tells the story. So we want to make sure that that is all taken into consideration. You'll see that on the benefit summary as you go through. Once you've done that, and I'm going to stop for a second and say, what can you find in that? Because I just used one slide, but important pieces of information that are in there. It's, not only the life insurance, the long-term disability, the drugs, the dental, and how that all compares. At the bottom of every marketing proposal is something that we call whole health benefits. Really important pieces that you want to pay attention to. Is the insurance company offering an employee assistance program? Is the insurance company offering HR tools and support that might be meaningful in the decision-making process of your client? Maybe they have a lot of turnaround. Maybe they want to create an employee manual. Maybe that piece that the insurance company is offering will be important to them. Things like telemedicine. Will the employees have access to online doctors and support? We're going to indicate that to you on the spreadsheet as something that's maybe even included in the price or optional as an add-on. Maybe we've done a standalone mental health strategy. Maybe we've done some executive benefits in there that take into consideration, some really important pieces that really could be beneficial to the employer. So when you're going through the marketing proposal, please don't stop at just dental. There's a reason that we put that extra information at the bottom, because that takes into the whole health of the organization. And they're really important benefits and something that should not be ignored. So we put them in there. You should go line by line to make sure that you're addressing those with the employer. If that's something that is not in your wheelhouse, that you don't understand, or you can't speak to it, please, again, that's why we have business models that we can help support through the process, because we're going to be able to talk about that. So if you've chosen a business model where you want us to be engaged, I can assure you that Candy and I, David, the rest of our team, we're going to be honing in on those big areas that are more at what we coined humanizing benefits. We're going to pay attention to those areas to make sure that your client knows about them and is engaged. So when we do the rate page, we're going to be putting the rate page on the ones that we've showcased for you. Okay, so we may have gone to 5 or 6 carriers. That does not mean we're going to be showcasing all of those carriers. That can be very, very time consuming. It can be information overload. It can distract from the employer kind of looking at different options. If for whatever reason that your employer or the employer has come to you and said, you know what, these are great, but we would love to see Canada Life showcased. Could you get that for us? We will do that. But remember, when we've done this marketing proposal, we've also gone with or showcased the carriers that we felt would be the best match for your client when we do this. And it might not be rates. As I said before, when we do these presentations, we do benefits first, rates after. So it will be important. If there is a carrier that we did not put on the spreadsheet, we can. And that's not a problem. You can reach out to us. But there's a reason why we've only showcased 2 or 3. Okay. And it's based on the story that we tell. So the spreadsheet kind of looks similar to this. Again, if you've done work with us before, this looks very familiar. We go line by line. We do it in a monthly premium. Sometimes we'll even do the estimated annual premium so that they can know for budgetary purposes what they're getting into or what their risk is. Now, if it's on traditional, great. We may have a different format for, let's say, a hybrid plan that we're doing or a flex plan that we're doing. So we want to make sure that you understand that there might be 1 or 2 of these spreadsheets depending on how we've showcased or what your client need is. But this is basically what a traditional benefit plan looks like in terms of the rate page. And we will compare it. If the group currently has coverage, you may very well see their current coverage here, and then how the other insurance companies that we've showcased compared to this one. So that's what you can expect when you're going through the rates. Before I get to this page, though, I'm just going to go back to this slide for a second. At the bottom of this page is something that we call notes for consideration. And I know that not every advisor looks at that, but every advisor should be looking at that. And the reason being is that there's very important pieces of information there. Number 1, participation levels are really important. And we're going to get into that a little bit more when we talk about the implementation of a group. But insurance companies have mandatory participation rules. So you're going to see them in that note section. The minimum amount that a corporation is obligated to pay is going to be indicated in the notes field. Typically, it's 50% of the premium to constitute a group contract. If it's different, we will indicate it in that notes for consideration. Anything that could pose a problem or needs to be taken into consideration will be indicated there. So, for instance, if we're comparing a group who currently has benefits and they have people off on LTD, for instance, or they're in the midst of having people off on LTD, there may be a note. This group has to have certain pieces of information in order to move to our insurance company. Could be life of waiver premium. Could be, we need to know the estimated if they're coming back to work. Things like that. Anything that's important to the implementation process of the group will be indicated in the notes field, including rate guarantees and rate caps. So what is the difference? A rate guarantee is something that an insurance company has put in place for, let's say, a first year or a first and second year. The rates will change after the first renewal, and this is a 16-month rate guarantee, a 28-month rate guarantee. whatever the case is, we're going to indicate it in the notes field. The rate cap, we do have insurance companies who, understand that, let's say a group who's never had benefits before, and who's now putting in a group benefit program, there's going to be a lot of usage, maybe on the dental piece. Maybe everybody's going to go out and use dental. They know that in 16 months from now, the rates or that renewal could get ugly. Well, we want to make a sustainable plan. We don't want to have, after 16 months, the employer in a frenzy because their renewal went through the roof. So some insurance companies take it upon themselves to understand that, to work with the client for stability over a certain amount of time. So they may offer a 16-month rate guarantee and no more than 15% renewal cap after the first year, so that some of those claims can fall off or normalize through the period. That is really important. That is a key feature. So they may be a little bit more expensive as a carrier, but remember, we're not selling benefits based on the lowest common denominator or the lowest rate on the spreadsheet. We want to sell benefits to tell a story that's going to be successful for the client. So putting in or going with the carrier that might put in that rate cap may very well be influential and sustainable for the client, and something that should not be ignored. So we put that in the notes field. So when you get a marketing proposal, you may just look at the rates, but if you haven't looked at the notes below where the carrier is offering something that's really important, you might be doing a disservice to your client and not making a sound buying decision. So I really want to put that out there, that's something that we do for you. Number one, it establishes your credibility. It establishes that you're listening to what your client's objectives are. It's also making sure that we're putting them with a carrier that's going to be a great partner and a successful partner. So please, when you get these marketing proposals, and if you choose to work with us, this is some of the things that you can expect, because we want to make this a very engaging process for all the stakeholders involved. And you happen to be a stakeholder, that's very important. So we want to make sure we're doing a great job for you, and we're doing a great job for your employer, the employees, and also the insurance carrier that's invested into the client as well. This page is really used when we're talking about a group who currently has benefits, okay? Because what we do is we test their claims experience through a band of reasonability and a claims projection. So we want to know, especially if you're an advisor who's engaging us in the process in choosing a business model that is that we happen to be consulting on or playing a bigger role on. This is something that's going to be really important, because we also understand that insurance companies want to buy business. You could have a group that's really, really attractive to an insurance carrier, and they may just be buying the business. So we don't want that to happen either, because that's not going to be very successful at renewal time when we start having to negotiate or looking at the claims that have gone through. So what we do is a brief overview. If the group currently has benefits, what we'll do is we'll do a claims projection page to make sure that the carriers are actually coming in with reasonable target loss ratios, with reasonable expectations, and that they're not buying the business, that it's reasonable for them to go with a Sun Life or a Manulife or a Beneva or a Cooperators, whoever the carrier happens to be. We want to make sure that it's being tested and it's properly tested, so it ends up being successful to the client. So this is something that you might see in the marketing proposal when we test it for a group, not a virgin group, but a group who currently has benefits. And so this might be something that we can spend some time on one-on-one if you wanted, but something that we do put in there to make sure that the buying decision is being sound and reasonable. This is what that notes for consideration looks like. It'll be on the bottom of the rate page. And I kind of went through some of it. Another area that you want to make sure that you're highlighting just more as a credibility piece to differentiate yourself in the marketplace is the grandfathering of life and disability. So if we're working on a case with you that they currently have benefits and there is long-term disability, or maybe it's life insurance that is tied to your salary, you want to make sure that things like that are grandfathered, especially if there's not evidence maximums. And let's say the insurance company that you're going with is a little bit less than what they currently have. The insurance companies tend to grandfather that information. So we want to make sure that you're highlighting that to your client, as well as any specific information that we think is going to be valuable in terms of the notes. So we've gone through the marketing exercise. We've given it to you. You've presented it to your client, or you've engaged us to help present it to your client. So now what? You've done the marketing proposal. The client is really engaged. They're like, great. We want to move forward. Fantastic. We're all very excited. We can't wait to implement this group. But that process is very time consuming and it has to be done right. Okay. And so this is why I'm spending the next 20 minutes or so just on that implementation process. As an advisor, you have to set expectations accordingly. Okay. We cannot implement a group on, let's say, February 20th for a March 1st startup and have it be successful. It's not to say that it can't be done, but it might not end up being successful. The reason being is that which we're going to go through here, but there's a lot of information that has to be done from us, from the insurance carrier, from you, the advisor, and to your client. So certain things that we need to take into consideration is, first of all, the insurance carrier of choice. Okay, we're going to get into the reasons why. A successful start date of the plan. If they currently have benefits, there is a termination process that we have to follow. We can't just cancel on February 28th for a March 1st startup. There are contractual obligations that need to be met and expectations that need to be set. Okay. We want to make sure that when we implement the plan, that we're doing it based on the proposal that we did and the rates that were confirmed. Okay, so we want to make sure that we have that the employer has chosen, especially if we've done alternates, right? Let's say you have a group that has gone through several different iterations of the proposal, and there's we've done 3 or 4 options for them. Want to make sure we're implementing the exact one, that the rates match what they want, and that we've highlighted the plan that they're choosing. So proposal and rate confirmations. Documents properly filled out, advisor contracting, how they want to be able to get their documents. Okay, so do they want it digitally? Do they want it hard copy? Does that insurance provider even offer hard copy anymore? Because a lot of them do not. So we want to make sure that we're matching everything and that we set expectations accordingly. Okay. So what are some steps that we go through when we're doing this? You want to move ahead with a plan? Not a problem. You're going to engage us. You're going to engage me. You're going to engage Candy if she's your BDE, and we're going to be like, yay! We're moving forward. We're going to reach back out to you. We're going to confirm the proposal and make sure that the rates that we're selecting are the right ones. Fantastic. We also have an implementation document that we've created. And if you've implemented a plan with me over the last little while, you'll know that I've attached it to the documents and something to follow. because there are timelines and there are specific dates that we have to meet in order for it to be successful and in order for implementation to take place. So, and we're going to get to that in a minute. So what we do is we request the sales documents from the insurance carrier. We request all of the information, master application, enrollment forms, tax forms. Some insurance companies actually have a standalone tax form that needs to be filled out. Online access forms. Who's going to be the plan administrator? Who's going to be the one that's going to be working to make sure that that on the back end at the company, who's going to be in charge of those HR administrative duties? Who's going to be adding employees? Who's going to be terminating employees? Who's going to be communicating with employees? So that's going to be important. We want to know who that is. Company banking information and advisor contracting. So just a point on that. If you work with IDC on the individual side, you know that all your contracting is done with IDC. When it comes to group, that's a separate step. Now, you don't have to be contracted with the insurance companies on the group side ahead of time. We work with you in tandem at time of implementation. So if you're working with an insurance company, your clients decided to go with an insurance company that you do not have a group code for, we will help with the contracting and make sure that you get contracted with that carrier. So I don't want you to worry that maybe we've showcased carriers on the spreadsheet that you're not contracted with. You don't need to worry. We will help you get contracted at time of implementation. And we're going to put together a calendar or a drop dead date for that information from you, the advisor, and from the advisor to the client in order to get back for an easy implementation. Okay. Now, just to give you a heads up, a clean implementation takes anywhere between 3.5 and 5.5 weeks. Now, depending on delays and time, that can be moved accordingly. But a clean implementation takes that long. And it doesn't matter if it's a 2-person group or a 2,000-person group. It's the same time frame. Implementations and expectations have to be set up front and adhered to, because you don't want your client to be after, we'll just use March 1st as the state, because that's as the date, as that's the next month. So we'll just use March 1st. You don't want your employer to be like, how come I didn't get any of my policy ID numbers? How come I don't have a policy number? When can my employees start using the plan? Well, if you only submitted the paperwork on February 20th, you may have coverage bound for March 1st, but your employees are not going to be able to use the plan probably till the end of the second week in March. So we want to make sure we're setting expectations ahead of time. If you want to conduct a clean implementation, I suggest if you came to me today and said, I need to implement the plan, I would say April 1st would be a clean implementation, where you would get booklets, you would get your policy number, you could still have time to cancel your coverage if you currently have coverage within the 30-day contractual mark. You'll be able to get maybe a high-level overview of the plan, your ID numbers, and your employees may be able to even go online and put in some of their banking information or dependent information if the carrier is in a digital format. So I want to preface that because I know that getting the sale is exciting. I know that making sure that you get it in when the client wants you to get it in is exciting. However, it's not always in the client's best interest to have it done quickly. It might be more engaging from a employee engagement and an employer engagement to wait an extra month to set the expectation and have a smooth process. Okay. So as I said before, it typically takes 3 to 6 weeks to implement. If a group currently has coverage, there are contractual obligations that an employer, if they currently have benefits, are tied to. And it's typically a 30-day cancellation policy. So we typically start a plan at the beginning of the month. We used to be able to do it mid-month, but insurance companies have done away with that. So it's really on the first of every month, to which you still need to give 30 days notice if you currently have a benefit program. If you need help navigating through that process, again, please reach out to Candy. Please reach out to myself, because we can help navigate through that and give you the proper timelines or implement the plan so it coincides with that 30-day termination period. But it is really important to do that, because number one, it's in the contract. Number two, you don't want your client to be overlapping and having to get a refund on their benefits if you haven't terminated in a proper time frame. So it's really important that we set expectations ahead of time. Okay. What type of information do you need? I did touch on this, but this is a slide that will show you. As an advisor, it doesn't matter really what business model you've chosen with us. The information is going to be the same. There is a master application that is going to need to be signed by the employer. There are enrollment forms that every single employee is going to have to fill out, okay? What's important about that is that a lot of insurance companies right now, and especially since COVID, have gone through more of a digital onboarding system. Now, there are a few carriers that will take paper enrollments, which is fine, but a lot of carriers don't. Everything is done in an Excel spreadsheet with names of employees, email addresses, and what you as an advisor need to do, and what your employer or plan administrator also needs to be aware, is there needs to be communication around that. You want to make sure that the employees know what the expectation is, that they're going to be getting an email, that they're going to have to log on to, input their dependent information, maybe some banking information, their own personal information, for the implementation of that group to take place, okay? So we can help craft communication around that. We can put a strategy together. If you've, again, worked with us, then you know that when we send something out, we may highlight some pieces of information in that implementation email that in yellow or green, so that you can see as the advisor exactly what needs to be done, and so that you can communicate that with the employer, that everybody's going to be getting an email. There may be a timeline on when they have to enroll, and it might cancel out. We want to make sure that we're communicating properly with the expectations for employee engagement. Okay. Corporate information, banking information, void checks. That's key. That's vital to the onset of the implementation process and a successful implementation. So your client is required to provide all of that. As an advisor, you are going to have to sign the application. Advisor contracting may have to take place. The business model that you're choosing with us, how much time and effort, if we're engaging with you, maybe we're helping you with an employee meeting. So we're going to talk about the business model that you've chosen with us, and as well following the onboarding document that we're going to put together for you with timelines. And if you don't meet those timelines, or your employer doesn't meet those timelines, it will delay the implementation process. And again, we want to make sure we're setting expectations accordingly. Okay. So policy numbers, booklets, things like that. So we've handed everything in, we've reviewed it, we've sent it to the insurance carrier. The insurance carrier has gone through everything. Maybe they've asked a few questions. Maybe the enrollment forms were missing some key elements. As they may come back to us, we will come back to you as the advisor. We're going to want to get those questions answered, because they may hold up implementation. So we want to make sure that we're communicating every step of the way. If the insurance company asks questions, we're going to give them to you to make sure you get answered and move on from there. Once the insurance company says, great, Candy, Marni, this is great. Thank you so much. We're working on implementation. And guess what? The risk has been accepted. Here is your policy number. It's 1234567. The coverage is bound for the month that it's starting. So let's call it March 1st. Great. Now what? So now either a welcome letter is going to come out from the carrier to the plan administrator, and maybe it's a communication to all of the employees, or it could be hard copies of booklets and drug cards that are going to be mailed to the employer. Could be a whole slew of things going on. We want to make sure, again, that you're communicating, setting expectations, knowing what's next in the process, to make sure that the employees are active and set up for the first of that month, because dollars to donuts, somebody's going to the dentist the next day, or somebody's going to get a drug filled the very next day. So we want to make sure that the plan is communicated, that the employees know what to do, that they have their cards, they have their ID numbers, they know what to do in case they're traveling. All of that information is going to be key. And so what we might do is, depending on the business model, again, that you've chosen, maybe we're engaging in an employee meeting with you. Therefore, we're going to do a high-level overview of the plan. If we're not engaged with you and you're doing it on your own, this is the time that you might want to create a document that gives them a high-level overview of what they can expect, maybe some tips and tricks, what the next steps are in claims, how they make claims, making sure that they know how to get onto the online portal of that specific insurance carrier. And key is making sure your plan administrator, the client's plan administrator or human resource person, is comfortable, that they get training on how to add employees, delete employees, how to navigate on the plan, to pull down forms, anything to do with any plan administrator. You want to make sure they're happy. You want to make sure you've engaged, that they know who to contact, whether it's, again, if it's a business model that you've chosen where we're engaged with you, then that they have our contact information. If it's one that we're only doing the back end, you have to make sure that that they know who to contact at the insurance company, that they have an account executive, that they've got online training, because that person is going to be the conduit between you and the employees and the insurance company. So make sure it's somebody that is maybe tech savvy or understands and knows where to go for the tools and resources. We have a lot of training tools that we can help provide for, depending, again, on the business model that you've chosen, whether it's for an employee meeting that you're doing, whether it's honing in on one particular aspect of the plan that you need information on, or you want to set up communications. We are here to help and support, and we could give you advice on what those communications could look like. Advisor commissions and contracting. Again, when you work with us, you may not have a group code. That does not mean that you don't have access to that insurance company. We will work with you in tandem to make sure that you get contracted at the same time as implementation. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. We want to make sure that you get your commissions. We want to make sure that you have your code. And so that once you do, then you know in the future, you never have to worry about that again. So depending on the size of the group, we've got access to 10, 12, 13 insurance carriers. That one of those insurance carriers may be the choice that your employer wants to go with. Do not worry. We will help you with the contracting. So, and I know we've had conversations with advisors before that they get nervous because they only are contracted, let's say, with the big three. Do not worry. Candy's here to support you. I'm here to support you. Our team is here to navigate through that process. So that is the marketing proposal and the implementation process. Let's just take, I think I have 9 minutes left. I'm not going to use that full time, but let's just recap for you in our story, right? On January 30th, we did the prospecting and the importance of the KYC. On February 6th, we did the request to quote process and the group underwriting. What we learned from the client, what their objectives are, what their employee needs are, we put that together. We put it into our request to quote. We sent it to the insurance companies that we feel will be best matched for that client based on the criteria that you gave us, based on business case model that you brought to our attention. We went out, we got quotes, and now our team has them and we're ready to go. Now we put them into a marketing proposal. We helped you navigate through that. We showcased the carriers that were important to the client, that we felt would be the best match, or you came to us and said, please showcase this one, and this one. Your client loved it. They said, great, how do we move forward? You came to us, you came to Candy, you came to me, you said, we're ready to move forward with XYZ carrier on April 1st of this month, of this year. What's the next steps? We got you all of the information. We got you the master application. We helped navigate through the contracting. We had you fill out all of the paperwork. We reviewed it. We sent it to the insurance company. The insurance company assessed it. They may have come back with questions. We got them answered. They said, great. We put our stamp of approval on it. The policy number is 1234567. And now the group is implemented. And the client has a full functioning benefit program. Now what? Your job does not end there. Okay. On February 27th, we're going to be talking about next steps in communication with your employer, employee engagement, how to get in, how to make some of those employees, maybe your individual clients, how to navigate throughout the year on certain topics. Maybe it's a communication monthly email blast that you do, or maybe it's something that we can help you with. That's the next part, because your job does not stop at the implementation. Your job does not stop ever, actually, because the communication and the employee engagement is going to lead you into your first renewal and what happens at first renewal. And so, again, happy to engage with you as advisors on one-on-one. I'm sure Candy would love to meet with advisors out west. You have our contact information. We'll be happy to do one-on-ones with you, but your job does not stop after the group has been implemented. And so on February 27th, we're going to take another time and we're going to do communication and employee engagement and some tips about during the year and what happens at renewal. With that, I think David's been backstage answering questions, I hope. And I'm happy to engage. Now, there is a question in there about gaps of coverage between termination and startup. That is why we always ask that you give that 30 days notice so that the group policy number is issued and the risk is accepted before you terminate. We can have a one-on-one with that if you want, but that was a question that came in. I'm not sure if David took it. But best practices are that we never terminate coverage until a policy number and risk has been accepted. And that's why it is not a good idea to, on February 13th, to tell me that a group who currently has coverage wants to switch plans for March 1st. That is where you could run into some problems. So again, if you want to engage in that conversation, please reach out. Other than that, I'm going to give everybody back 5 minutes of their day. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found this one insightful. I've been having a really amazing time doing these presentations. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to February 27th.